Let's talk about how to harness the power of negative thinking.
Negative, negative, negative.
To persuade the people who don't know you. I'm Dr. Dan. I'm the Neuro Story Guy. I'm passionate about the brain and, more importantly, passionate about you getting your message to the right people so they do what you need them to do. We're going to talk about how to persuade and influence the people, the prospects, and the audience that don't know you yet. They're called cold, right? You've heard of cold traffic or cold audience. That just refers to people who don't know you yet. So that's a different audience. Think about your family. You could get them to do almost anything because they already have built-in trust. Your friends, your circle of influence, people that already are following you, they have a built-in trust. But it's a different animal when you try to reach people who don't know you, i.e. cold traffic, cold audiences, cold prospects. And in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to reach them because most salespeople, and truthfully, most marketers get this wrong. And it's not that they don't have good intentions. It all has to do with the brain. You guys know me. If you don't yet, I get fired up about this brain because when you can understand how it works, how it makes decisions, how it receives and interprets information, you can package your message in a way that they cannot refuse. That's what this is about. So I live in Nashville, Tennessee. And if I go down on the main street in downtown Nashville, it's called Broadway. It's where all the bands play, it's all the music, it's all the bars and all the scene. There's no non-busy time, by the way, if you ever come to Nashville. It's always busy down there, no matter what time of the day. And so if I were to go down there and I took $110 bills and I started to hand them out, it would not take me long before I encountered some resistance, right? Put yourself in that position. If I was gonna hand you a $10 bill, typically in a random place, trying to give you $10, if you don't know why I'm there and never heard of me, which means I'm cold, right? You're a cold lead, you're a cold prospect, you're a cold audience, you will typically have a resistance to taking that $10 bill because your brain will say, what's the catch? Why are they doing that? That's just the way our brains are wired. This is why when you're going to cold traffic, you can't package your message in what they're gonna get, in all the benefits, all the blessings, all the positivity. Because just like most people would hesitate to take the $10 bill, most people are hesitating to take your message when it's not packaged appropriately. Now, let's put ourselves on the same street corner, but this time we stumbled as we were walking and bumped our head, gashed our forehead, and we have blood coming down our face.
That's gotta hurt.
Some random stranger comes up to us and we would literally allow them to take a snotty handkerchief out of their back pocket and put it on our head, on our skin to stop the blood. We wouldn't even hesitate. In fact, we would say, thank you so much. We would welcome it with open arms because in a moment of crisis, in a negative situation, we are wired to be attracted to cold people given the right circumstances. You can see where I'm going with this. This is just the way the brain is wired, guys. And I want to tell you, because when you get this and you start to implement this into your marketing, into your sales, into your communication, it changes the game, especially when you're going to people who don't know, like, or trust you yet. It's called the power of negative thinking. And really it comes down to a cognitive bias. I'm not gonna get too much in the weeds here because this is all about simplicity. I wanna keep it simple for you, for me, and for everybody involved because this is practical. How do you actually get results with this stuff based on the brain, but doable things you can put into place right now? And it comes down to a cognitive bias. That simply means there is a filter mechanism that seeks to shortcut our understanding or interpretation of information, and we base it on our experiences and our preferences. Again, you don't need to know what a cognitive bias is or means. You just need to know there's shortcuts within the brain that allow us to understand things, interpret things so much easier and faster. Well, one of the cognitive biases is we're so much more attracted and drawn to negative things. But research on this is clear. You are, as a human, 2.3 times more likely to do something to avoid a loss than to seek a gain. The difference between negative and positive is so compelling when it comes to reaching cold traffic or people who don't know you. And the studies are fascinating on this. For instance, they looked at the value of a coffee cup to somebody who owns it, and the coffee cup itself only was worth $5. But when it's in your possession, and the longer it's in your possession, the more value you have for it in your mind. And on average, the person that owned that $5 coffee cup would require somebody to give them over $10 to buy it off them. The same thing happens with the house. The house you live in, you determine in your brain that it's more valuable than it actually is because it's yours, because you don't want to lose it. And so this is called the loss aversion bias. It's the same concept that I'm talking about when you're giving $10 bills versus helping somebody in a crisis or a negative situation. So how does this apply to your marketing and your sales? Well, it has everything to do with it, because think about marketing. Marketing in itself is trying to reach people who don't know you yet to come into your sphere of influence, for them to know, like, and trust you, and not that they'll buy and follow through and take action on your product, service, and offers. So if you're going to cold traffic, which is what marketing is, maybe you're doing a message online, or maybe you're doing one-on-one, or maybe you're doing a talk to a large audience, your message wrapped up into the negative versus the positive will have a much more impactful experience for them. And I'm gonna teach you this here before the end of this video, that there's a simple way to take every message you have and just turn it from the negative to the positive. Think about the news, right? It's very well known that if it bleeds, it leads. Clickbaity headlines became so much more popular, you see them everywhere. And so there's a reason why, is because they work. They literally trigger parts of the brain where it needs to click on it. It needs to see what that thing is. You know, if you hear a news story that's so negative, right? The worse it is, the more negative it is, the stronger the emotion it triggers, and therefore the stronger the action. You have on average 6,200 thoughts per day, between 6,000 and 7,000 thoughts every human has per day. We used to think this was around 40 to 60,000. That has now been proven not to be true. It's around 6 to 7,000. We can see this on brain scans called thought worms. That's how many we have. Now, here's the kicker. 80% of them on average per day are negative. So if 80% of your thoughts, or 80% of the prospects that you're trying to reach, are negative, and you wanted to get their attention, you must talk to them in a way that honors how their brain is already thinking. And if 80% of their thoughts are already negative, you literally are using that to your advantage. This is how you harness the power of negative thinking to persuade people who don't know you yet. I'll give you another example of how powerful this is. I guarantee you, when I ask you this one question, you know exactly where you were. And the question is, on September 11th, 2001, where were you? What were you doing? And what did your day look like? I can almost guarantee you, if you are older than the age of 25, you know exactly where you were, what that day looked like, can remember specifics of that. I can remember details. I was in graduate school. I can remember at 9:15 in the morning, I was in a histology class with Dr. T. Everybody hovered around 2 areas in our school that had TVs the entire day. I remember that day vividly, because when something is so compelling in a negative way, it not only has an impact on what we feel about it, how we respond to it, our attention that goes on it, but also our memory. When you put a message out there that hits on somebody's emotions, specifically their negative emotions, it actually makes them remember it more, care about it, take action on it, and actually pay for it. They would be more willing to pay for it the more it hits on that emotion. This is where it gets real fun, because you can take any message you currently already have and wrap it in a way that they are going to pay attention to it if they're cold traffic, if they're cold audiences, if they're cold prospects. And the way you do that is you just take the message and flip it.
Man, flip it. Flipping it.
I've had people come to me and say, hey, Dr. Dan, how do I take my weight loss message to cold traffic because I'm not getting results? And so I go through it. Typically it's, here are the 5 foods you need to eat to lose weight. And I'm like, wrong. They won't even pay attention to that, because there's 50 foods that they shouldn't be eating that they are aware of, that they are eating. So it's not the problem of their awareness, it's the problem of them actually doing it. However, when you say something to the degree of, here are the 3 foods you need to eliminate unless you want to watch the cellulite grow on your body. I want to know what those 3 foods are that are going to harm me versus the 5 foods that are going to help me. You see how it automatically starts to shift even though I've got the same message? So what you want to do is you want to take your message, and that's how you harness the power of negative thinking. And some people say, well, I don't want to be negative. That's your choice. I'm telling you right now, this is just the way the brain works. You can choose to not have the effectiveness that others have. You can choose to not do it. You can choose not to wrap your message in a way where their brain is going to actually do something with it versus be caught up in the noise of everybody else's messages. And then one more thing here is, when you're in a one-on-one communication, how do you simply use this? Is you ask the question, what's going to happen if you don't do this? What's going to happen if you don't buy this? What's going to happen if you don't solve that problem? And then they have to make their own decision in their brain that allows them to say, I can't have that happen. I need to then get this solution, buy this program, buy this product. It's pretty simple. You could take any message you already have and just flip it to harness the power of negative thinking. Here's the question I have for you. What's going to happen to your messaging if you don't harness the power of negative thinking? There you have it. Hit the like button. Shoot me a comment. I'm Dr. Dan, and I'm out.